Rise for flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
I'd
like to thank everybody for attending the 6 o'clock first budget meeting for 2023. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, the Egg Harbor City Common Council was provided in the following manner. Advance written notice of this meeting was posted on the Egg Harbor City Hall Bulletin Board. Advance written notice of this meeting was posted on the Egg Harbor City website. Advance written notice of this meeting was sent to the Hamilton Gazette and the press. The meeting is being conducted via Zoom and conference call. The meeting is also being recorded to air on the Egg Harbor City website, Channel 97, and the Egg Harbor City Facebook page. Mayor, roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor Trippetti. Here. Antonisi. Here. Clark. Here. Dash.
Here.
Galloway. I am here. Heist.
Here.
Petty. Here. Timbers.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
And Rich.
Here. At this time, I have a motion to move into the budget workshop. All in favor of it? All right. At this time, Jody, it's yours.
Okay. So just going to preface this by this is a working draft. Now that the water treatment plant is hopefully actually really happening in the very near future, this is going to change a lot. So mostly we'll focus on just kind of current fund. This version right now has like a 6.5 cent increase. I do not think it's not on wood. We will need that once all the utility stuff gets flushed out. But this is kind of just focusing on current fund as it is. And I am also meeting with Leon, our auditor, next week, and he's going to help me kind of go through exactly kind of how we should handle some of that utility stuff that is obviously something we've never really had to deal with before, and just kind of trying to figure out, you know, how we're going to kind of juggle everything that'll be changing. And even that, like, we still don't have an exact date, so it's so hard. It's like I keep changing the numbers over and over. So I'm like, you know what, at this point, let me just focus on the current fund. And once we get like more information on the utility and can kind of move that over, then we'll finalize. So I had talked to Leanne about the state has like a budget calendar they're supposed to like introduce and adopt by, but we really can't adopt until we close on the water treatment plan, because that's when our numbers will really be like accurate exactly for this year. So hopefully our tentative plan is to introduce at the second April meeting. That'll give us time, because you want introduction doesn't really mean anything. You can change pretty much the entire thing just to advertise. So we can introduce them, and then hopefully by that point we'll have a set date for closing, and we can, you know, make our final calculations and adjustments, and then adopt once we have that closing. So we'll probably be a little delayed this year with adoption, but hopefully it will all be good. So that's my little project. So usually what I like to do for anyone new on council, reminder, I usually kind of just, we'll start with the revenues, and kind of, I like to just go line by line and explain anything that changed. If you have questions, you can ask me, you can ask me at the end, whatever you want to do. And if you don't understand something, just feel free to ask me to explain in more detail. So the first sheet, I kind of just started with the actual budget. There's a lot of like various information pages, but
Just to interrupt, so everyone knows, I would like to finish up around like 6:45, 6:50, so we can take an intermission for regular stuff. So just keep that in mind for everyone.
So sheet 4 is what you should have in front of you. Should be the first page of the revenues. So under surplus anticipated, you'll see last year was 215. I changed it to 309 this year. The only difference is we had that emergency we did last year for the down payment for the fire truck bond and the road bond ordinance for 94,000. I just thought we have to raise that in this year's budget. So to offset that, hopefully, again, once the utility is flushed out, that money will be coming back. So, and knock on wood, we had a good year last year, so our fund balance is up as well. So the difference between that is just that 94,000 that funding that's somewhere else. You'll see that later on in the budget. So that's why that increased. Alcohol beverage, I apologize. I do not have what was realized in cash last year because this, I need to, I did this version with before the state had like their budget file out. Now I have to like put it on there. So I didn't want to like waste time putting in information on like an old file that I have to redo. So, and also, sorry, another explanation. You can only anticipate as a revenue the max of what you received the prior year. The only time you can do more is if you've already received it for some reason and you show that, you know, you submit to the state for approval, you just have to send proof of that. Or let's say we raised fees for something, we can do a calculation to show why we think we can anticipate more based on that new increased like fee that we're charging. So alcohol beverages just kept the same. That was pretty much right on. That's not really something that varies very much from year to year. Other licenses bumped up just a little bit. They were up a little bit last year, and now we're going to have the fee that we charge for liability insurance and cannabis, and so those will go up a little bit as well. So that's up slightly. Interest and costs and taxes basically the same. It's just down a little bit. That's a little bit closer to what we actually. I don't think we hit 100,000 last year. It was a little lower. What? Interest and costs on taxes, on like delinquent taxes. So that's just down a tiny little bit. Basically the same. Interest on investments and deposits, basically the same. 4A, rent of municipal property, pretty much the same. Nothing drastically changed. Lake fees. We have not only increased our fees, but they also went up. Even without the increase, I just based this on last year. I like to be conservative with that stuff. If it rains, if something happens, you don't want to anticipate and then have a shortfall. So this is really just based on just last year's numbers without even our rate increase. But this 40,000 that we added is basically added in also increased expenditures later. You'll see we increased the salaries and the OE because now that minimum wage is so high every year, our lake salaries have really increased as well based on that. And then our campground royalty, we renegotiated that has a higher percentage as well. So just a little bit of an increase to that as well.
So the rent on municipal property includes what?
It's the nutrition center from the county is a little bit, the library.
When's the last time those contracts were reviewed?
I think I would have to check. I honestly don't know. I will check for you. And I feel like we just did something with the county for either the library or the nutrition center. One of them I think that maybe got renewed last year. Oh, look. I wanted to the World Flowers be bought. Oh, and the World Class Flowers. And the nutrition center is really very little because they basically just reimburse for trash. I think they have like a $1 lease, the county, to use the program. They just trash collection, and the library I think is $12,500 a year. I think. Firehouse Club for the outside. World Class is $1,500 a month for the parking lot. Those are wonderful.
Bungalow?
No, that's he pays the taxes on that. That's all.
One of them is 1113. One of them does have, hold on, I think it's I have a little spreadsheet.
You mean the bungalow in?
Let me I have a little thing of city.
I thought they were trying to also.
Maybe.
They used to have.
I know Mills, I think used to. Because we never really
check for something.
Okay, parking lot with World Class Flowers is actually that expires in June with an option to renew for another 5 years.
No, it's just a work in progress right now.
Okay, so you're already okay, cool. All right. Library rental is $12,500 a year. Nutrition center for this year is $1,270 for the trash reimbursement. Bungalow lease is a 99-year term, and that's $900 per year. And Firehouse Bar and Grill is $800 for this year.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so let's see. The next page, if anything, is page 5. That's our state lead. Which the energy receipts tax, I think everybody got just a little bit more this year, so that went up slightly, 3,000. And then this consolidated municipal property tax relief, that was a one-time thing the governor did last year, but it was after our budget was already adopted. So the state basically said, just reserve it. You have to anticipate it this year. So that was a little increase for this year. So nice little bonus. Construction code fees just kept the same. We upped all this, remember? The fire or the actual construction code too? Okay.
Fire. UCC, fire.
So that could possibly, I like, again, if we need it, these are like little, keep in the back of your mind, like things that if we really need to increase. I like to try to be conservative because I'd rather generate surplus than have a shortfall. Because if you max out and then you have a bad year, or no, last year we had Wawa, that was a really large permit. So if you don't have anything, when I looked so far this year at what had come in so far, it was kind of on track with this amount. So I didn't release it as of right now. Again, once we get a little closer to adoption, if we see where we need it, we can.
Because remember, High Grass Farm is going to start too. They're going to need
right. Yeah. So you might, if we know there's some bigger project, but again, to me, if there's kind of like one-time things, let that go to surplus. Let that help us, and then we can offset something in the future, rather than. But yes, again, none of these are my recommendations. If council has something they want to change, obviously you guys are the final step. So, so sheet 9 is grants. I didn't put in anything yet this year because theoretically they only put in matches for right now because that is something we would have to fund. So any grant would normally be in and out. So those are, there will be grants in here, they're just not in grants. And then sheet 10 are some other sort of like local type of things. Uniform Fire Safety Act was down a little bit last year. As you know, our previous fire official unfortunately passed away. We kind of had a vacancy for a while, so nothing was really being completed. So I think that almost and we just raised the fees for that, and Steve's really trying to catch everything up. So I think next year we'll be able to bump that back up again, but based on what that's we have for this year. The coronavirus local fiscal recovery, this is the balance of what is left from our tranche of money that we got from the federal government. So
that won't be there next year.
I was going to say that will be something we will have to make up next year. That 82,000. Rental inspections, we increased or we changed how it's going to be done, and that was up a little bit last year as well. So that is why that is increased as well.
Check it real quick. The local coronavirus said this is the last year to use it, right?
No, it's not. I think you can technically use it through 2024. That's just the balance. I think we have left.
So our surplus will be kind of balanced with this not being there and us getting more monies in from the other.
Yeah, like hopefully next year we can, if we have to increase of that. But yeah, that technically, theoretically, we will have to make up that 82,000 next year in some way. The payment in lieu of taxes, we will actually get more than the 40 this year, but since the residential abatement was abolished, once those are done, once the current round is done, it will go to 0. So we're going to need to start phasing that kind of out. So I didn't want to increase, even though theoretically for this year it will go up, because we really need to start taking it out. That again is also something that's not going to be recurring.
That's not for rich man.
No, that's not the common one. Those are the residential, right. And we have I don't know if there's anybody left that's commercial, but let me see what year the bulk of those are in.
Shouldn't that residential abatement go up until it's more?
That's what I'm saying. Theoretically, it will go up, but that's why I want to check what the most of them are in their second year, so there will be the 60 and 80, and then they'll go away. So there's only 2 more years that we'll have that. The 24 budget and the 25 will have, well, 26 will have a TV bill. Actually, no, there won't be anybody, nobody else is left. So everybody, so 24 and 25, after 25, there will be no more of those. So I just don't, you know, that's gonna come out at some point. So I just don't wanna create a big hole by increasing that. I'd rather let that go to surplus also, because that's, you know, the more dependent we are on that, the bigger hole we have to fill. So.
Well, wouldn't that revert to taxes though?
But the way it's like handled in the budget, like, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden, like that 40,000, like, even though it goes into like your tax levy, it's still like theoretically a whole, like the way the budget gets calculated.
Until it's off, and then that whole line goes away, right?
That whole line goes away, but like your revenues and your appropriations are like your appropriations aren't really like dropping off, like even though that goes into your tax levy, like it doesn't like offset itself like that easily, even though it sounds like it should, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Even though they're paying full taxes, like the way it's in the budget is like, I can't, like, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Keith, you gotta take the whole packet, not just one page. You'll be lost. As soon as
See, you were paying attention.
you're just be lost when you start. You know, I watch everything you do.
I know.
Cemetery contribution is the Conifer pilot just based on what their calculation is.
That's right, Frank.
That's right. Conifer pilot is
Are they fully occupied?
I'm honestly not totally sure. Sheet 10 and this reserve for land sales, we had just last year we were kind of like using up the balance to offset any debt service. There was a little bit left, so I just kind of used up the balance of that to kind of finish that up. And then sheet 11, just kept our number 4 on sheet 11. The rest is kind of all just a summary of everything we went over. Number 4 is receipts from delinquent taxes. Just that's the same. To me, that's like a great way to generate some surplus if liens or things get foreclosed, not foreclosed, people redeem things, great, helps go in. I don't like to bank on any of that. That's just not like a known thing. So that's the summary of the revenues. Our net taxable valuation went up just a little bit. So even though the tax levy went up a pretty good amount, that's not as many cents as it would have been from the assessed valuation went up. So
Jody, can I just add something? You back up 1 second. There was a sale of property.
mm-hmm.
There is more property to be sold this year, correct?
Yeah, at the last few years, we have not budgeted that. We have just let that be what's considered unanticipated. It just goes right and usually, and you would have to have like a signed agreement or already have received even the budget. So that's everything for revenues. Go to sheet 12, that starts the appropriations. Salaries based on just the salary resolution, you can see just some increases based on some raises and things that have been approved through council. Slight increase in other expenses.
Which account for what?
Other expenses?
Yeah, what's that like?
Pretty much anything that's not salary, like office supplies, any equipment contractual for like software. Yeah, just stuff. Yeah, exactly. For most departments, it's just office supplies or any contractual software that they would use for like their office. Professional fees if you, if we have someone fix something like in City Hall or fix the printer, things like that. Trying to think of anything.
What other expenses?
A lot of it is
I don't know what word I want to use.
Memberships, so like various like organizations.
Like
Yeah, like municipalities, the magazine as well, like things like that. If we buy some supplies, plaques or things like that. Some of the Channel 97 stuff, I think, is considered under that. Yeah.
Is that doesn't pay for, like, say, your fees though, right? Like,
No, that would be under finance. Yeah, that would be finance, administration, other expenses. A big finance one's a little bit higher. Almost all like our like contractual stuff are like copiers, payroll, printer maintenance, any kind of like more finance, payroll, a lot of stuff like that is what falls under like these the audit. I feel like I was looking at postage. A lot of the postage gets charged under that as well. I think our IT contractual is under that as well. Nothing real, anything major changing so far for those sheets. Sheet 14, I bumped up buildings and grounds just a little bit. Every year something seems to keep breaking and we just seem to be needing more and more, so just bump that up a little bit. That's kind of generic. It could be something city hall or it could be something just anywhere really buildings and grounds within the city.
How is engineering services, Pam?
I think bumped that up a little bit last year and we wound up not really using as much, but because we kind of wound up doing an ordinance and I put some stuff into that instead rather than like, oh, I was hopefully on through the budget. Because we do like road project every year, I'm like scrambling to try to figure out, well, you can't charge design. You used to not be able to charge design engineering for DOT projects. So every year it was like, well, we have to come up with the design engineers. Like, let's start putting this in the budget with like recurring. So I had started beefing up engineering a little bit, but since a lot of it's kind of being like, we're now kind of doing a large bond ordinance for a lot of those roads, I put a lot of that in there for now. So I bumped it down a little bit this year.
It's got a, that's a question. So municipal land use, it's got salaries and wages, $69,000 for the attorney and experts, right?
No, that is for both code enforcement officers on half of Donna's salary. The contractual other not contractual, sorry, the other expenses, that includes the land use board attorney. Most of Ryan's stuff is all just generated usually through escrow. Like it would get charged to whatever project he's working on. Yeah. So there's not usually, there's a small amount in there for like special projects if him or the land use board attorney work on something like outside of sort of their normal, or the city planner would do something, but for the majority of it, it's usually charged to the escrow accounts. Sheet 15, we just put in, we applied for that grant for the fire department, so just putting in that line for that, so we can pay for that. 15 just based on the police updated that, oh, we didn't change the salaries and wages just based on the contract that was negotiated last year, the new steps. Municipal court, there's about 4,000. That's what we owe Hamilton for. We have a minimum guarantee of 40,000 in fines, but that's we would have owed them like a flat fee in addition. If you remember, we renegotiated. That was the same one that we renegotiated that. So just a little shortfall in fines last year. I'm still waiting for them to like kind of finalize like that. Can you please like do you pay that? Like how they're like, like look it over and we'll. I'm like, okay, like you're not doing it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I'd like to like know what it is. I want to finalize my budget, you know what I do. So this is based on the spreadsheet that I have from them. This is the shortfall. So
it's 39,667.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, EMS, we have not had an increase with Galloway for many years, and they I think the safety committee's been involved, but went up a little bit.
That's not finalized.
Okay. Okay, so tentative, that's the amount to go up for them.
I didn't get the attachment in the email.
What is it?
What email?
I don't know. It was there an email?
Yeah, it's all the way to the bottom. You had to go all the way to the next page.
All right, well,
That big rock.
there.
Where is it? Yeah. There it is.
Right now, this has an increase in public work salaries, which that won't really wind up being the final ones. Right now, I still have utilities, so I have to keep salary still in the utility right now. Once we like restructure everything for the utility, that obviously will go up. Hauling up a little bit, we have that new apartment complex that we have to that we're now reimbursed approved last year. Solid waste, we might need to, we had a little bit, I'm sorry.
How many actual people work under Keith? How many
Right
do
now,
work
I feel like that's under public works.
Mhm.
Right now. What I have.
Do you know?
I know how many guys.
I do, yeah,
I'm not
like,
sure
I know how
who
many
gets
people
paid,
have like access.
because people get paid half and half, or people,
Yeah,
so I didn't want to.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna look up.
I know how many guys.
So the not Gerard, I'm sorry, Ray and Chet and Tim, I have fully charged, well, at least in my budget sheet. I might not honestly be how I have it in comp, so I have to check, make sure, but this is how I'm doing it for my calculation right now. I have the three of them fully charged to Public Works. I have half of Kyle.
I'm sorry, fully charged, so they're not doing that.
Well, they do other stuff, but like for my
Their salary
budget,
comes
for
out.
my budget purposes, right now I have. And then half of TJ and Kyle to the utility, all of Keith to utility, and all of Elwood to the utility right now. And then obviously, once the water treatment plant sells, Kyle and TJ will not factor anymore, and then Elwood and Keith will get moved over into.
So there's 5 people, Keith makes 6 in that department.
Two, I think it's 7.
Is it 7?
It's 7 including Keith, it's 6 on.
Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Thank you.
And then, don't forget, we had Gerard last year, so basically that will kind of fall into his.
Are you gonna get your
Tim sort of took over Ricky's spot, and now Elwood will basically take over Gerard's spot.
And this hauling fee is what, the HUA contract?
Yes. And then the solid waste is the actual tip fees. The hauling fee is the collection of yard waste, trash, and recycling, as well as the reimbursements to some of the multifamily that do their own collection that we reimburse. And then the solid waste is the tipping fees that we pay, which our rate has gone up a little bit this year. We had a little bit left over last year, so I didn't really increase it too much this year. I'm gonna have to look and see. Hopefully that won't have to go up, but that may need to go up just a little bit for the final version.
Wait, question.
Good.
Do we pick up for any commercial businesses? You're responsible for their own pickup.
I have a
Yes.
list. I was gonna say there are some that we.
Just out of courtesy, you can pick up anybody's commercial waste out of as a courtesy, but that's something that really council should look at.
Because you can require them to do their own
Yeah,
pickup and
yeah.
recycling.
I can look. I got from AC-Way one time like a list of like basically like non-residential that they pick up. I'll look and see if I can find them.
Yeah, why would you pay some and not others?
Yeah.
Save.
I mean, if that was all, like, just, this was like before I was here, so I'm not, like, I don't know how that was.
Yeah, if you can file the list.
Yeah, I'll look and see if I can.
We'll have it use the AC-Way as well.
I think so.
I think they do.
Yeah, they do. We pay
You pay for that?
Because
I believe to recycling for anybody, but it's the actual like waste.
our ACA does everything for our schools, because if you don't, then it's gonna increase our tax rate.
Does it come out of our budget or it should come out of their budget? It should come out of the school budget.
So then they'll raise your taxes. So
They
it's
will.
a two-edged sword.
You pay for it no matter what.
Well, the school board has its own budget, which they also get approved by the local finance board, which they do after we implement our budget. And so I think maybe council should look at reimbursement from the school, because it's actually just taking it out of one taxpayer pocket and putting it into the other. There should be no increase.
But they don't have a line item for that. How would it be?
Well, they would have
They
to.
would start collecting it.
Correct.
Pointed out, increase their budget. We could trade services, though. Access.
Well, we would do a shared service agreement. We'd have to charge them, whatever it is, 10 grand, 11.
Well, a lot of paperwork for something that like they'd already, like either they're, you know what I mean, like theoretically.
No, I mean, other services like access to the building. We say, okay, why don't you give some time to local teams.
They do.
Instead of paying.
Our teams they don't charge you these to go in there, do they? They don't charge you to go in.
School.
Doing that for years.
School went up, was that ever negotiated?
No, they just have never, we've always picked up the trash.
Right, and I think we have to pick up their trash. That's a statutory requirement. I don't think they're permitted to go out and bid.
Well, Greater Ag, they have waste management, so we don't.
Well, maybe that's something to look at.
And you may turn around and falls under past precedence. You've done it all these years and now you want to change it.
That
I mean,
doesn't fall on the courts.
Well, it's either that or, there are other methods forcing them to do that, but that's not something that,
I don't know if
We
that's
have
a
to-
battle we want to take on, but
something you should think about.
Mhm.
But not
Before-
necessarily something you should implement.
Before we move on.
Yeah.
Keith, since you're here, how much M&R was put into that street sweeper this year?
I don't have the dollar amount in front of me, and I know that,
Just,
It was
all
talked about.
ballpark it.
but I want to say we were probably 20,000 into that this year.
Okay.
We had some major breakdowns with it that involved, an outside tow company to get it back to the facility just to be repaired. And I bet you were right around 20,000.
Does the county do sweeping for their roads or no?
Yeah. About once every 2 years.
That I've seen. And that's county. They don't even plow up there. They would for melt.
Well, we do Main Street for them too in our town. So
Do we have an agreement with them to do that? A shared services
we do it
agreement?
for our own benefit, for trash pickup and cleanup and
they,
all around look.
yeah. It's just easier, right?
Yeah, I mean, the demand is there and we fought with them before and it didn't work, so we just do it. And it's for us, our
For the
appearance.
safety of our residents.
So 20,000 in counting?
Hmm?
20,000 in counting? Okay,
So we haven't got any bills for it this year, but it's already been broke twice.
say no more. That's fine. Appreciate it.
Just so we know, I don't believe, not that I'm saying we should, I'm gonna have like people calling and like bashing you
Don't
about
say
this,
it.
but I don't think we're legally required to do that based on this,
So you guys.
the speed limits, right, of our streets.
So anything under 25 does not have to be swept and a log swept or a log kept for that. But I mean, when that machine works, the results are, the most pleasing out of any machine.
When being the key word.
Yeah. And when it does, we run it along.
So let's go on to PC. I mentioned that the increase in the lake revenue is just offset. You can see the salaries went up 20 and when you have that much more activity, you have a lot more expenses related to it, and we run that thing, pretty bare bones, but it costs money. And it still is generating more in revenue than it is expensive.
And lining current field is only $25.
That's just been a line item in there forever. I honestly don't even know if we've done it. I don't even know why it's in there. That's been in here since before I was here, and I don't know that that's.
Must be way more than $25.
So we lined it for.
Yeah, we probably could just take it out,
No, you
honestly.
keep it in there, just give me the
Nothing changed on 15D. 15D, group insurance, so as you know, insurance went up in the state health benefits quite drastically. Luckily, last year we had kind of increased quite a bit. So when we did the calculation for this year, it wasn't quite as bad.
Really, I want to just want to back you up a little bit. Back to the Crusaders Youth Program.
Yes.
For 14,000, I think the Crusader get was all fine and dandy back in 2000, but it's now 2023, and that 14,000 doesn't even cover our insurance. And now, you know, the electric bill that we just got. So I mean, I don't know what we got to do to see maybe upping that a little bit or something.
How much?
I don't know. I would have to meet with the Crusaders and
How much did we pay their, because now we pay their electric bill, how much was the electric bill? For Crusaders?
But that's another thing, because we got charged $6 grand for electric from May until December, and we don't turn our lights on until September. And there's men's leagues out there, there's other programs that are out there that are using light, and there's people in other programs telling them that they don't pay the Crusaders, they pay the city. And
Have they paid you, Judy, for that?
so the Crusaders got charged for over $3,000 for something that we didn't even use.
Do we have written agreements with that?
That was between,
It's he writes, Gary, I think Gary's president, Danny McInnes, right? He runs that.
well, I think he's like the treasurer.
They're on timers, right?
No.
It's a breaker. You turn it on and off.
Would it be feasible to put a timer on and somebody forgets to shut them off?
It's not that they shut them off, it's the problem that you try to do a general agreement with some of these leagues and they tell you that they're gonna pay you, and then when it's time to get the check, they disappear. And who pays the price? The kids.
So that says there's no agreements in place. Does that mean?
Well, we had the agreement, remember when we were over here
When it's just the one?
with the girls teams, we had like 3 girls teams practicing over here at one time, and they paid up front, or they didn't go, they didn't.
Right.
Well, now we increased the application fees, and that comes out of that, but prior to that, each team was paying their separate, they broke it down between the 3 groups.
I think T-Rec does have an agreement that it's like, right?
What's that?
For use of that field.
For the field, yes, there's $100 that they charge
The
deposit.
lights were like 7,800 last year. We paid a balance of 6,165 to Crusaders after the election.
So what Mace is saying, after the lights are paid, they have about $6,000
Right.
from the city.
Right, please. Right. Yep. And put it this way, this alone, this is not even counting insurance.
The insurance is about.
Yeah, and well, that's almost like 12 grand. Between cheer and football, with all the stuff that you gotta put down now, and all the liabilities now, with all these new laws.
Yep.
But just not even counting nothing else, just helmets alone, just getting a new helmet, not new helmets, just reconditioning the ones that we had was almost $6 grand. That's what I'm saying. It's like
The same.
And that was for.
so every 10, you get a helmet, every 2 years, the helmet has to be reconditioned. Yeah. And after 10 years, no matter what kind of shape it is, it's automatic trash. So- Right.
Yeah,
So-
that's 71 helmets we got back out of 150
Right.
that we sent.
We're almost at 6:45, so if that's something council wants to think about what you want.
Well, I just want to bring up this-
Yeah.
I'm
Not
listen,
getting the amounts.
No, I
you know.
just want to bring it out there.
No, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. So you guys want to think about that? Go consensus on what you want to change that to for the year. You can change that for introduction as well.
We can start taking the 25 out of the lining of Kearney Field.
You know, even like your firearms and stuff, like we waited probably at least 40% of The
Well,
kids
you
are
have
really
money, you
kind
have money for this from the lines.
No,
Well,
not
that's- we
anymore.
don't have
Yeah, I
that.
don't get that.
When our municipal lines got like chunked.
Yeah.
when-
Yeah, it's even. Huh? Yes. So we need
More than one serious sponsor.
Yeah.
we need blood donors.
Do you do that? Do you get sponsors on like how
There's
many
nowhere to
games
put
are
it.
on?
We used to do it when we had baseball. We used to be able
Oh,
to
you
go.
with baseball, right? I'm thinking like.
But we used to be able to get the signs made and, you know, I mean, we do it for like T-ball, like they'll sponsor, you know, like $200 to get the hat,
Yeah, yeah.
sponsor a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Or, and then when we used to use the Little League field and everything, we used to be able to put it on the fence. We used to get a big
Yeah,
park,
right,
5x5
right.
park with things, but like with football, you know, we got a couple of
There's
ideas
no
that we
fence
want to
there,
do. There's nothing that we can't even hang up our banquets. I mean, the fence that place in, that would be insane.
I don't know if like at all, like along the edges, you know what I mean? Like, I know.
It's like, we don't even use
They do for like the football team, it's like.
that field is like in the middle of the war zone. So it's like anything that you put up there that can be tore down or destroyed will be. Because it's the meeting point for everything that happens in our youth. So that's why that place is always trashed. That's why it's, you know, the playground's always trashed. I mean, that's just the kids walk across the bridge down that way, strike kids come back this way. You know, it's just, so even if there's really nowhere safe to put it, and then everything's blocked, so you have to, you know.
Yeah, because that's kind of set apart, like, it's not like in a public spot where you walk by,
Exactly.
like where I live, it's kind of like a public spot, like
Exactly.
people are walking.
And a lot of the other towns, their baseball fields, their football fields are all fenced in.
Yeah.
So you know, like Atlantic City, they put a lock on it once practice is over, nobody goes in it, you know what I mean? It's just the way, but we don't ours, I mean, even when we were doing the, you know, when I was coaching the 13 and 7-year-old baseball, we put our fence up and the kids have one direct path. The fence don't mean nothing. They walk right through the fence because it's in their path. We literally had a baseball game and kids just literally walked through the fence, right through the baseball. I mean, luckily the pitcher was quick enough the whole thing, but they just, there's no walk around. They got their path and they walk.
I'll try to get through the rest. So 15A, like I was trying to say, so group insurance up, not luckily as bad as we could have if we hadn't kind of increased some last year and had some other things that wound up kind of not meeting last year. So
We're at 15E.
yes,
Yeah.
15A.
Have we reached out to HIG about this?
Yes, and they declined to quote for us because we're too small. But some of the county had reached out, so I have been in contact with them and they are like researching and
They're trying to set up their
yeah,
own.
yeah. So they're further, didn't they? I don't take it seriously as people now because the state is being such a.
Yeah.
The only benefit is when we joined the state health benefits, we really saved a lot of money. So we're still better off now than we would have been if we weren't in state health
Absolutely.
benefits. It's still, especially being a small group, we're still.
And I personally don't want to explore any other plans underneath that. I mean, where we are is where we should be.
Yeah, and that was another, we saved a lot last year by going to 30 for 2030 for the youth.
To go any different, it's not beneficial.
The liability and workers' comp. Last year I had just split them. This year, they're not, the insurance went up about 20,000, which is not that bad insurance, as everyone knows, that it's crazy. But we had saved a lot last year. I just did a better reallocation, how they actually bill us for liability versus workers' comp. They didn't really go up or go down that much each one. I just wanted to be a little more accurate while I was charging it. As you can, and I also, right now, since the utility last year, when we had that nice decrease from when we quoted, we had a lot charged to the utility in the past, since we knew we were getting rid of all the water treatment plant. Everything is in current fund for utility, so that is not to be absorbed right now. So, and a little benefit, I guess. A little bump up in some of the utilities, just everything's going up. I don't think only really just street lighting. We just needed a little bit more last year, so bump that up.
To replace someone.
For those lights that are out, we're going to go down this year.
Yeah, we get that.
There, just so you know, all lights, So you're on, I think I might have said
10 minutes.
that. Except for about 6, however, Tim's going to fall. The month they weren't on. But it's not a lot.
It's part of life, right?
Yes. 30.
Could make a difference.
Yeah.
The only thing is they have to still be on. So in other words.
It is. Them being out has
To
to
be able
be,
to-
that is about fun.
Yeah.
Police pension, the employer contribution went up about 40,000, so that's like 2 cents. A little bit of a large amount, sheet 19. Sheet 24, again, we will have grants in here. I only put in the matching for right now. The NPP has a matching share of 25 and the Alliance has a small amount for 1,300. We may be able to use some of that 25, some of the other grants we applied for have a match, but the NPP, since it keeps getting kind of extended and extended, we might not really need that until next year. So if we get some of the other grants we applied for, we can use that as our match instead. So we don't have to raise that. Sheet 26, last year we had bumped up the capital improvement fund. I think we were getting ready to do some improvement. I don't remember what we needed. I think we needed. We wanted to put more money in the capital improvement fund for ordinances.
Yeah.
So that's just, I bumped down capital improvements back to what it used to be at 25. Sheet 27 is our debt. I am hoping.
Jody, you took that down to 22.5.
And then the 2,500 I'm going to be I split it between
okay,
computer
I got it, I'm
equipment
sorry.
and to get a couple. And then sheet 27, I was hoping most of that would wind up coming out with the water plant sale. Unfortunately, most of these payments are going to be due before the closing. So I'm hoping that we can use some of the proceeds, basically of revenue, to offset some of this debt service, since we would have really been able to take it out, have the closing happen early. So that's kind of my hope, is that will help offset pretty much any of our increase will be offset by that. Sheet 28, you'll see that 94,000, the deferred charge I was talking about for the down payment ordinance. And then sheet 29, our reserve for uncollected taxes. Our tax collection rate has gone up a little bit in the last couple of years. So the reserve for uncollected taxes is a calculation based on that. So just reduce that a little bit since the tax collection is going up. Still left it conservative. I did not bump it up to the max it could be, because I'm going to get a bad year, then again, you're kind of left picking something up.
We go back to sheet 28, shot H2, total general appropriations. Let's look at 2022 and 2023. Is that right?
That is not all the appropriations. Those are only things that are excluded from the cash. Yeah, if you keep going, you'll see what the actual totals are. That is only what's excluded from the cash.
Why is there such a big difference?
Because almost everything's within the budget cap. That's basically grants and deferred charges. If you go, I think sheet 19. Sheet 19 has the totals of everything within the cap. Almost every operating thing is within the cap, only capital, debt service, and deferred charges is really what's outside the budget. There's a budget cap and then there's a tax cap. They're two separate things. We don't really cover budget. That's pretty much it. I know that was a lot to digest, so feel free to look it over, email me any questions, call me with any questions.
So yeah, within the next month, everybody review, we have a motion to close the budget. I'll make a motion to take that. We will reconvene in 10 minutes at 7. I apologize for anybody in the audience. I'd like to thank everybody for coming back and attending the regular scheduled council meeting tonight. Just finished up with our budget meeting. So if I may have a motion to open up regular council.
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor? Have a roll call, please.
Mayor Gimpetti, here. Antonisi, here. Clark,
Here.
Dash,
Here.
Galloway,
Still here.
Height,
Present.
Hessy,
Yeah.
Chambers,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
and Richie.
Here. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 9th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Anybody from the public have any comments on any item on the agenda? Going once, twice, all right. Mayor, the floor is yours for your report.
I only have one thing, and that was the ACEAs that I had sent to everyone. I apologize for the short notice, but they really want to get a lot of municipalities involved. If you had a chance to read it, it looks like a pretty good program that would fit well with our NPP. We do $5,000. There is a possibility that maybe NPC could pay for it, but it's not in our budget right now. So if that's something that council would like to look over and just think about it and let me know if it's something that you would want to consider.
Quick question, with the benefit that they have, the membership benefits, can any of that be applied towards us to kind of help offset any of the costs here, like some of the benefits like the insurance or some of the
question? I'm not really sure, but I can have the man that I spoke to about it. If you would like more information, I can ask him to come to a council meeting.
That would be, I think that might be here, so this, they're like an economic development corporation, so what can they do for us?
Right, and honestly, they do a lot for us now, and we just don't pay them. You know, Max Slusher calls me all the time, and they'll be like, oh, what do you, like, somebody's looking for this. I mean, Ryan, right? We send them all kinds of stuff, properties and things like that. Yeah, so they do that a lot for us for free, but they want to, you know, get them. Before it was like $12,000. I was like, no way. So they reviewed it and they felt that the smaller cities wouldn't have to pay as much. So that's why it's down to 5,000. But I can see if you would like to come and speak about it. That would be, I think, going to.
Yeah, because I think that if some of those benefits can listen to municipality, that's save a lot of money.
And who is he, Howard Kyle?
Yeah.
Is that time? Okay.
Go ahead. What were you?
Is that time sensitive? Can we set up?
No, I don't need it.
I was gonna say either first meeting in April or first meeting in a month, considering we have a budget meeting, second meeting in April.
Right. First meeting in April, I'm gonna have the Riley come to the council meeting. So I'm gonna present with a, so that'll be a small presentation. But if you want to do April or even June, it's not time sensitive, so it's not the second meeting. Okay, and I think that's all I have for the cleanup day. Which I've been telling you about is May 6th. Want to sign up to participate? Plenty of trash around. If everybody pitches in, the best part about the cleanup day is riding around after it and seeing every single street, and it's just beautiful. So I'm looking towards that. We do usually pull out 3 tons of trash. Past 2 years, we haven't had it a full-fledged cleanup because of COVID. Last year it was the rain, so it was like 9 tons of trash. Left that was out there somewhere. To find it. And I believe that's all I have right now.
I think the exact opposite.
Moving on to the committee chair reports. Last night we had a finance and redevelopment committee, which our city attorney and engineer will touch on all the subjects during their reports. We have yet to have a safety committee meeting, which I'm going to look to set up probably in April to see what's going on and what we need to move forward on. So I will move on to Councilwoman Heist with Highway. Okay. Councilman Dash with Code.
Code committee met last night. We went over some different things. We talked about numerous properties that had the status of their enforcement. We also brought up some different options for some software programs to help streamline the reporting process. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Hesse came in with very organized notes. We went through quite a few items, and so we're still kind of moving forward with those. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I just look forward to working on these issues through this year. I know we have a really good team, and I think we can get a lot accomplished. So I look forward to it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Antonisi for Property, Parks and Playgrounds and School Board.
Nothing for school board. For Parks and Playgrounds, the online presentation that I am going to attend with the application for us to be able to collect online monies at the campground at the lake for lifeguard fees and lake fees is coming up. So after that, we'll probably have another Parks and Playgrounds meeting scheduled to discuss it. And then some of the lifeguard staff has gotten back to us. I need to adjust that list and send that back as well, because I have some more that have reached out. So I'll send that to you, Jackie. Sure. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Wright, Utility?
No.
Councilwoman Clark with License and Ordinance?
Nothing to report.
Councilman Timbers, Land Use in Aaron Haven?
Aaron Haven, something to report. Land use, we did have a group came in, they gave a preliminary presentation on properties located at the intersection of Homburg and the White Horse Pike. They want to put in a restaurant, so they're thinking about Tex-Mex. There were some issues with parking. Right now, the way it's situated, there may not be enough parking, so they may need some variance for that, but they were just gauging the support. I don't know where they're going to go with it, but it sounded interesting to me.
What was the location of that?
It's on Homburg and White Horse Pike.
One. Where the rat washes?
No, that's what we just sold. After the bookstore.
Yeah.
By the bookstore.
That little box.
He told them to buy the bookstore so we would have one park.
Yeah. Councilman Timbers, what kind of support was given from the board when it was brought to attention?
So they didn't vote on it, it was very informal.
Okay.
But from lukewarm to most were lukewarm to kind of try to encourage them a little bit. Okay. If they could, get some of their issues addressed.
Awesome, thank you. Jackie, you have anything for Jim?
No.
Joe, do you have anything for Jim?
No.
Okay. Let's see, Rotary, Councilwoman Hesse.
All I have to say is Sam Weiner Easter egg hunt will be hosted by Mays Landing, Egg Harbor City Rotary Club and Friends in Action. Once again this year, they're teaming up. And again, they're going to have 2,500 Easter eggs and many Easter baskets. And the Salvation Army is going to have their hot chocolate again. The truck's going to be out there. So it's going to be held April 1st. This year it's going to be 11 o'clock. So it's not 10 this year, it's 11. And also the chief is going to have one of the patrolmen are going to speak to the children there as well. And hopefully everybody can hop on down to the Rotary Park and enjoy this Easter egg hunt. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilwoman Galloway for Sustainable Agriculture.
Just to report that Mike Sheridan is working on the nature trail at the lake. He's getting the signage in place, and he's working with Keith to get the gates installed so that it's ready for Memorial Day weekend. And next Tuesday night's the Brownfield session. It's going to be a Zoom. There's a poster on the bulletin board. If anybody's interested in attending, they can register at sustainableehc.org. It's right on the front page. You just put your name in and we'll send you the link to the meeting.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Chief of Police reports. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well.
Good. Missed your last meeting? Fine. So let's talk about what we've done in the last 2 weeks. Some numbers for you. We had 3 burglaries, 1 fraud report, with 1 simple assault, 1 aggravated assault, 5 thefts, total of 11 motor vehicle accidents, 3 pedestrian stops, 30 traffic stops. a total of 17 summonses and citations were issued. We had 5 arrests. 4 business alarms, 1 residential alarm, 112 crime prevention activities, 1 criminal mischief call, 4 domestics, 23 EMS incidents, 5 new firearms applications. Follow-up, we had 13 of those, 696 property checks, and 10 public service calls. In terms of trainings, what we had this last period was one of our officers, and I spoke briefly about this previously, the Atlantic County is doing stuff for their veterans. So we had one of our officers who served military time go through crisis intervention training, which is the stepping stone for another specialized training to deal with veterans in crisis. So Officer Caldwell spent 5 days there. I spent 5 days at a new chief's orientation. I missed the deadline last year, but I went this year. I'm actually kind of grateful that I missed it last year because I think I would have been overwhelmed with all of the great information that they gave, but having a little bit of experience under my belt, I feel like, okay, yeah, I took a lot away from that. Lieutenant Perna is one of our crisis negotiators. They had their quarterly meeting to do updates and trainings. That was last Friday. Special activities that we did. We were at March Madness last night. That was a lot of fun to watch the dads from the community come out and play basketball at the Egg Harbor City Community School. We were introduced to their new mascot. They have a wonderful new mascot, a knight, and one of our local kids is the actual mascot and does an amazing job with it. Some meetings, we had an NPP meeting, a coalition meeting this week. As always, we have been in the schools this morning. Officer Rodriguez was playing chess with some of our self-contained kids, and we always have a really great rapport with them, so we're out there all the time. Upcoming stuff, we are doing a coffee with a cop on Monday, March 27th, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at our local Wawa. They have been very supportive and have wanted to do this for a while, so we finally got it together. And that will be this Monday, upcoming Monday, from 8 to 10.
So, I have one thing to say regarding the fire. Phenomenal job for your staff, for the fire department. What you relayed to us couldn't have been any better. Kudos to them. So please send that and let them know. Real bad situation turned out really well. So I commend them on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I will absolutely pass that along.
And I as a journalist, I get very upset because that didn't make the paper. The story didn't make the paper. But God forbid something bad happened, it would be, right on the front page of this paper. Any progress or any efforts to do the senior fraud?
Yes, I spoke with Jessica Weissman from the FBI on Tuesday morning. There are some tentative dates set for April. I think we're looking at either the 7th or 8th or 9th or the 14th or the 15th. So as soon as we solidify that, I will absolutely pass that information along. I was actually got some information from our CFO as well. And we may try to set something up at the nutrition center as well, since that's kind of the captive audience and the target audience as well. So the FBI has indicated that they're very willing to come out and do multiple presentations.
So Jessica Weissman last week, her daughter took first place in the Stockton Science Fair. And I wrote a story about it, and it got the most hits of any story I've written in like 2 years. So it's just pretty popular. And brilliant. Oh my gosh, see the work she did.
Chief, I have 2 things. Now that the weather's getting nicer, any thoughts on getting that cops on the bikes out? Because we have the bikes, we have the vests, we have the helmets, we have all that we need to have besides the cops.
Besides the training.
The training.
Yes, yes, actually, Lieutenant Colonel and I were discussing that earlier this week. With the nice thing, we did take the bikes out. We are going to have them serviced at Pro Pedals. So hopefully before the end of the school year, we will have folks out on bikes. We do have some that are bicycle trained. So yes.
Awesome. My other thing is just out of curiosity, have we ever considered a canine officer?
We've considered it. Absolutely, we've considered it. And part of the consideration is that I think a canine would be amazing here. There is a lot of time for the training. They have mandated trainings, and we have to look at the cost of it, because the city, in addition to any kind of insurance, would also have to make sure that we have the appropriate kennels and places for the dog to stay. So, I mean, that's something, I mean, we can try to work up a cost analysis of what it might be. And I know you guys just did the budget, but I mean, if I'm not opposed to it, that's something.
You and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious because I saw an article that Mullet had just got one, and I'm like, I wonder why we, you know. So that's why I was asking.
We get dogs from the county, the prosecutor's office, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, mutual aid is amazing. It really is. And I think it's amazing that Mullet got one. I do want to sit down with Chief Zach and see how it is that they're working out out the schedule, because it does take a patrol officer off the actual street for a considerable amount of time. So, you know, and that is something that the mayor has expressed interest in previously, and it's just never something that come to fruition. So that's something that we can revisit.
Yeah, I was just curious. Thank you.
Anyone else for the chief? No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jody, moving on to the CFO report.
I just have an add-on resolution. We had discussed in a previous meeting, applying to the USDA for, they basically have like a grant/loan program for the fire truck. So our pre-application was approved, now we just submit like a formal application. So it just requires a resolution authorizing that. So
I'll make that motion.
Just a second.
Roll call, I'm sorry. Yes.
Antonisi?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Heist?
Yes.
Hesse?
Yes.
Timbers?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
And Ritchie.
Yes.
That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Jackie, you have anything for us? All right. Angela. Hi.
Hi,
Welcome.
how are you?
We're doing well.
Good. So we are very busy trying to close the sale of the water and sewage treatment plant. So this week we had a meeting with the Department of Community Affairs, which was a very excellent meeting. They gave us some guidelines on our application, which will be the last submission we need to make to any public agency in order to get the final approval for the sale. As part of that process, they wish the governing body to look at some community projects. And so last night at the finance meeting, we did review some community projects that Ryan came up with and the mayor came up with that we all think would be beneficial. I think the entire council should look at these projects before we expend any of the funds that we may receive on the sale. And so I recommend a special meeting next Thursday. Hopefully you all can attend at 6 p.m. We'll publish it at such. There are many items on the community project list, which I think merit some serious consideration on the part of the council. Ryan will send that off to you at some point. We can all take a look at it and then we can talk about it. Is that down okay, you all?
Yeah, and this also will open up for anybody else that has any ideas that may not have been listed on that email to open up a conversation. It's going to be a meeting where we would like to prioritize needs more so than wants. So just keep that in your mind when you're thinking of things. So.
Councilman Ritchie's correct. If you have anything you want to add to the list, or you think the list is not inclusive, you have some thoughts on other projects, that's what the meeting is for. So we can take a bit of time and discuss it all.
Angela, is there anything that has the criteria that meets the community project guidelines?
There are a few bits of criteria, but from where we sit and we looked at, it's pretty open-ended.
Okay.
So we're, you know, you can look at lake projects, you can look at purchases of some equipment,
like a scoreboard,
all those things.
He has.
Okay. I once the list gets circulated from Ryan, I think everybody will be pretty impressed with it. Again, just start brainstorming if there's anything else that could be
Yeah, we want, I think what the list will highlight is that we want to do as much as we can for the kids in the community to get what we need finally, since we might have a bit of money, and also to improve the field and improve the lake and improve all the amenities that makes Egg Harbor the great city that it is. We're going to try and enhance all that. This is the year to do it.
And to be clear, they are requiring that we do it. It's not that we are going, just to be clear, we're not going on a spending spree. We are required by the DCA to provide a list of projects.
Yes.
And also the USDA.
So the list obviously is not all inclusive, it's not comprehensive, it's simply a starting point. And then what we commit to, what you decide or want to think about, we have to submit to the DCA, Department of Community Affairs.
And must come to fruition.
And we have to do it, yeah.
Did they give us a timeline?
We're not sure. They didn't say anything. They didn't say anything about a period of time. I'm not sure if they're talking about 2 years, 5 years, or 10. So I think at this point, since of course, we've heard many times in this process, this will be the first WIPA application before the DCA. I specifically asked to have a application process. They specifically said, no, we don't. And so you give us what you think we would like to do. But we had the meeting because we wanted to glean from any conversations that were had as to what the application should look like so that we don't get a kickback.
Thank you.
So we're not done.
I know, I'm just saying. I know you got it.
My husband said, you're gonna come up for air? I said, not ready. So we're gonna circulate the special meeting notice for Thursday at 6 p.m. Mark the calendars accordingly. And we're just gonna talk about those projects. Also on your agenda, there's number 15, the resolution, which goes along with the down. This resolution is to replace Egg Harbor City with New Jersey American Water as a signatory on the agreement. And this was a sewage agreement that was implemented in 73 and then updated in 1990. It has to be done now so that we're out of the picture and New Jersey American Water comes into
the municipalities down beach all passed this resolution as well. Yes, they're all members of
Yeah, they're all members. Egg Harbor City is a member, but will no longer be a member very soon. So now's the time we have to pass this. Also with reference to the sale, we're going along schedule very well. We're very, very close, except for the DCA piece that we're going to talk about next Thursday. We're hoping to obtain that application into the DCA this month, if at all possible. And then hopefully next month we can work on some closing documents for the sale. On your agenda as well, we have ordinance number 21. In this ordinance, we simply changed the ability of the land use board to look at informal applications instead of making it mandatory. The ordinance committee and I decided to make it
You said that they're going to be required to put escrow.
Last year.
Do you know what that number is?
It's $500.
And do you know if they collected it for the application that was heard the other night?
That I do not know, but last year we did implement an increase in all of the fees, construction fees, fire fees, all the fees, mechanical fees. I did the whole list as an exhibit to the ordinance. As part of that, we also increased all of the land use board review fees and made a $500 escrow amount for informal applications.
No, we did not get $500. We don't do that on civil tax. We didn't pass the ordinance.
Well, we've always had two levels of informal review. One is an informal review where someone prepares a set of plans, they submit it with an escrow and schedule a meeting with professionals and the city's team, essentially, the building department, the fire code official, that. And that level of informal review where we meet and sit down and go over a set of plans as always required. We have, for the last 10 years or more, had a secondary informal review wherein we allowed prospective applicants, people who are just sort of, contract owner for a property, thinking about making an offer, own a building, not sure what to do with it. We've allowed them to come to a land use board meeting and just sort of get some guidance on what they're allowed to do with their property, and sort of what the path forward would look like. And it's an opportunity for them to sort of float some ideas. But over the last couple of years, that process has sort of warped into something where applicants were coming in and saying, oh, well, I need a use variance. I'm thinking about doing this. What does everybody think? And it sort of put the board in positions where they're not really comfortable because they feel like someone's trying to get an answer before they're allowed to get an answer. So we've talked about refining that process back to a more technical review, limiting it to like 10 or 15 minutes. And just saying, okay, that property's in this zone. Here's what you're allowed to do there. If you want to move forward with that, you do use variance, you do this, you do that, and just give them some technical guidance over a few minutes while we're already in the meeting rather than having this on.
So they won't even post the sidewalk.
Correct. For those, again, we're going to tighten it down, limit the time frame, and because we had a couple that push it past half an hour. So it's all right. You have 5 minutes to talk about what you want to do. We'll give you some feedback, and then you go home. That's what we're going to do at the board level, and then we'll still have the actual informal application where you can still have the board's professional, the board's professional, and the city's personnel come and sit and meet with you and actually go over the plan. That's the one with the escalation.
But for them just to come to the board or informal talk to the board, there was no fee for that.
Right. There's no application. There's no fee. The board can't take any action. There's nothing like that. It's essentially we've done it really under the public session. We listed on the agenda as a courtesy, but it's really just an interaction with a member of the public with some questions. That's how we treat it. So
for the review of plans, there's also a $100 application fee.
Right.
So it's $100 for the application fee, $500 for.
Okay. Is there any chance we can move that speaker up a little bit? I'm getting text messages from people saying they can't hear it. I know it might see the picture a bit.
There. Yeah, that's me. I think you'll reach out. Oops. That's everybody.
Well, we talked about
We did discuss sort of providing some guidance. Okay, if you're going to come to one of these meetings and give this informal presentation, here's what's expected. So we did have that discussion. We'll try to put some guidance out. People reach out to us.
So looking at this ordinance and the update, the only thing really that was changed is that it says the land use board may grant.
That's it.
That's
so
all the change.
That's all the change. Instead of making it mandatory, before it said shall. So they had to have informal people come in. Now it makes it discretionary.
Correct.
Any other questions on that?
Okay.
For ordinance 5/2023, the chief and I just spoke a few moments ago. She would like a further opportunity to review it with me because most of the impetus of this ordinance it rests on the chief and her staff. So we want a chance to sit down and talk about it. And so if you don't mind, we'd like to table it for this session, and then we can bring it out next month, or maybe the latter part of the month.
It is tabled.
Thank you very much. Finally, last night we also talked about affordable housing, and our planner Jen Heller from Palestina is going to come up with a plan and give council a proposal to create a trust fund for the affordable housing food that we expect to like to meet. That's all I have right now. Any questions?
Any questions?
I do have one problem about tabling the ordinance number 5. Can we bring it back at the next meeting? Can we bring it back to the next
We will
meeting?
try very hard for the next meeting. The chief and I are going to get together We're gonna look at some of the provisions, and the provisions we're gonna look at are basically the ones, the enforcement provisions. Just your questions about the police and enforcement. That's all. Thank you. I want to. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone have any other questions?
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you again.
All right, Ryan. You're up, buddy. And your report.
I just covered most of the items that I participated in, so that was good. Let's see, the solar proposal that we have been discussing for a while, we have a tentative meeting set up. Solar developer, I'm just waiting for them to confirm the time. So hopefully we'll find before that.
What was that date again? Next week.
No, it was, yeah, I think it was the 13th at 6, which would be for the next council meeting.
Yes.
So my budget meetings are this. Another one, not something we discussed in a little while, but it's sort of been remembering that the resident at Third Terrace who discussed drainage concerns. There's a couple of things that we could do there. We have one solution we'd like to sort of talk about and go over in more detail. What the cost implications would be and where exactly it is. But I think ultimately we need to go over it in the field and talk about how it can lay out and how it fits, how we can keep, and then ideally represent the council over it. Determine the residents.
Is that the Washington Avenue?
Third Terrace.
It was the guy that was here.
Yeah, his house front Washington.
Okay, yep.
So regarding that, right? When New Jersey American Water having to the infrastructure, is that going to be? Can that be one of the targeted terraces, and will that fix that issue?
So, if and when they would come and do the utilities, they won't make any vertical adjustments. They will just, if they have to redo the whole road, they'll end up just milling and paving.
Okay.
So it would be zero elevation drainage adjustments.
Okay.
So repair the trench and then just make everything exact. So it's, we just paved the road not long ago, but you know, it depends where it's prioritized. I don't know if it's 4 inch, maybe 6 inch. So it's possible that the utilities, but
okay. The solution that we spoke of was the cheapest solution.
Yeah.
What was the price again?
We figured like 40 grand for an inlet and some perforated pipe and stone to just sort of collect and let the water infiltrate into that area rather than try to reroute it.
Basically create a leach field.
Well, French drain.
Yeah, French drain.
Yeah, perforated pipe and stone. Yeah, it's much bigger pipe than French drain in the house. So we'd have to put through and make sure there's no clay that would interfere with that. But that would take up the least amount of space. You wouldn't have to pipe it all the way down the end. You wouldn't have to put a mound up in front of his garage. You know, for all the largest events, it would take the
And where would that lie? That would lie on the side where he's at.
You'd have to put an inlet before his property, just in the city's right of way off the edge of the road. 30-foot right of way, 25 feet carpet. So you got 5 feet to work with off the edge of the asphalt. You probably the inlet, you know, just slightly into the asphalt where you do an A and whether you know 2 foot wide or 4 foot wide inlet. So you do that right at the edge of the asphalt to make sure you catch everything, and then do perforated pipe in the city's right of way along the shore.
And then right. All the way to the street, to the connecting street? No,
you would just do it. It would just be a little dead end system that would just fill up and drain the ground at the time. So rather than try to pipe it down the end of the street, because that's $100,000+.
So that should rectify it for the woman down the.
Yeah, I mean, you would retain and infiltrate the vast majority of the volume being generated upstream. There's only 150 or 200 feet of asphalt upstream in these two houses. So there's not a lot there. So we can figure out the length of pipe we need to get that volume. We got a pretty good idea of where it is.
Which house are you talking about? On the north or south?
That'd be considered community project.
I mean, drainage.
Yeah, is this a new problem?
No.
Yeah.
Terrace.
I'm sure we got this. I was over there.
What else you got?
those are the only real like pressing things at the moment. We have a pre-construction meeting for the reconstruction of 102 blocks Chicago Avenue and 102 blocks of Washington. The pre-construction meeting is next week. We'll find out from the contractor exactly when they want to start. I would say probably the next month. Should be getting out there and get started. So they'll do the door hangers and stuff for all the residents on the area, and then obviously the police department say so they know what's going on.
So we're paving 4 streets this year?
4 blocks.
4 blocks, and that's how many years grant?
2. It's fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022. I think that's all I really have. Is there any questions?
I just have 2 real easy questions. Atlantic Avenue and New Orleans, there's still detour sign up. You know,
I saw that when I drove in. Actually, came down on it, and I sort of wondered what that was for. To be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's detouring from anywhere.
I'll go back through. Most of the times, companies put their name on the backside of the sign, so I'll see if there it is. Yeah, I can't even think of who would have been detoured someone that way.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where it came from, but yeah, I'll swing that by soon.
The other thing, and I realize that these aren't city streets. Route 30 and Philadelphia Avenue, we're getting a lot of feedback about the drain that's dropped.
Yeah, I actually took a picture of that while I was sitting in the lake to come here. I'm gonna, yeah, you sent me the thing with the.
So that's the state, right?
Yeah, so that most likely the mortar failed under the casting and it just dropped onto the actual structure. So yeah, that project, as far as I know, is still active. So I'm going to reach out to the project manager and forward it. Hopefully they can still do it over there. If not, it'll go there, maybe it's going to be.
Okay. If residents are contacting us, that would be great.
I just send me for the complaints. I mean, ideally via email, because that way I have a document. Okay. Send them to the state. Say, look, we've got 10 people reach out about this survey problem.
Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly. I can say 10 people called me and they're like, yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I forwarded 10 emails, but so.
New Orleans.
Yes. Joe, I gotta get checked. I haven't asked you to yeah, the application. Pay half of what the standard is. I'll give you.
Email me that.
Ryan, I had one thing. Down the Boardwalk Bridge lights. I had a discussion about that with Gary Hess this morning. You were with us when we put in the boardwalk, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not. Has that expired? The
oh yeah, the maintenance bonds are 2 years.
Expired.
Well, so
and they get no guarantee.
Keith reached out to me about this too. We're trying to pull an archive box because the project submittals, what the contractor submits the very beginning of the project and it's sign off on. It's possible that there is a manufacturer or material warranty which extends and is sort of outside of the contract that we would just go direct to the manufacturer for that material warranty claim. So we're looking for that paperwork. Hopefully we can find it and we can go back to the manufacturer. Hopefully there's a warranty. So it should really be well beyond the contract.
Gary's getting a simple fix is Gary's getting prices from Bill Electric Company to buy one of the coals, which I'm sure you're aware of, right, Pete? And then we can get the tops apparently are still good. So all we really need to do is buy the coal and then hook up the electric, which is easy. So yeah. So you know. Trying to get mad over there. Trying to get that move up. We don't want all the lights to be out. Have a safety hazard.
Yeah, we do have a request in the archive box. I just haven't seen it.
Thank you.
Might have anything else for Ryan? No? Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Yep. All right, so number 14, we're going to cover all 3 with the motion to approve the use of Lincoln Park for Christ Wesleyan Church, 800 Philadelphia Avenue, for Friday service, April 7, from 12 to 2. Easter sunrise service, April 9, from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then the Bike MS, the City to the Shore ride, September 30th and October 3rd. So if there's no questions or comments, we have a motion. All in favor? 15 is a resolution Approving the second joinder agreement allowing the city of Egg Harbor to withdraw as a participant and including New Jersey American Water Company as a new participant.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Roll call, please.
Okay, Athanasi? Yes. Clark?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Heist? Hesse?
Yes.
Timbers?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
And Richie?
Yes. Number 16 is a resolution for budget transfers. Jody, you just want to explain to everyone what they're for?
Sorry. Just moving some money to buildings and grounds, just so there were a couple of lingering things that we wanted to work. Out of that. The last meeting that we did, this is the last one we'll have for transfers for this year. Here.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Athanasi?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Heist?
Yes.
Hesse?
Yes.
Timbers?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
And Richie?
Yes. Number 17 is a resolution to sell surplus property on municipal. May I have a motion?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Athanasi?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Heist?
Yes.
Hesse?
Yes.
Timbers?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
And Richie?
Yes. Number 18 is a refund of street opening security permit. What was that for? Anybody know?
That was a.
For 3 Salem?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any questions? If not, I have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Athanasi?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Heist?
Yes.
Hesse?
Yes.
Timbers?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
And Richie?
Yes. Number 19 is a resolution to authorize the Egg Harbor City Fire Department for roadway solicitation on May 19th. Motion, please.
So moved. I'll second.
All good.
Aye.
And number 20 is also a resolution to authorize road solicitation for our Egg Harbor City Fire Department on the 25th.
Second.
All good.
Aye.
Number 21, we're going to introduce ordinance number 4, amending chapter 170, land use and development, article 5, subdivision and site plan review, section 28 of the Code of Egg Harbor City. This is what Angela touched on in her report. If there's no more questions, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, all in favor to introduce?
No.
Yeah.
All right. May I have a motion to advertise notice of introduction in the Hamilton Gazette on the 29th for a hearing on April 13th?
Second.
All in favor?
No.
22, we are tabling. And 23, we have ordinance number 2 of this year, amending chapter 150, title 5, prevention of the Code of Egg Harbor City. I have a motion to open a public hearing.
Motion.
Second. All right, we're open to the public for any comments regarding ordinance number 2. Going once, twice, motion to close.
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Athanasi? Yes. Clark?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Heist?
Yes.
Hesse?
Yes.
Timbers?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
And Richie?
Yes. May I also have a motion to advertise notice of adoption in the Hamilton Gazette on the 29th?
Make a motion.
All in favor? Number 24, we have another public hearing regarding ordinance number 3 of this year, repealing chapter 170, land use and development, article 5, subdivision and site plan review, section 170. 170-48, stormwater management, amending chapter 170, land use and development, chapter section 170-48, section D6, and repealing and replacing chapter 233, stormwater control of the Code of Egg Harbor City. May I have a motion to open public hearing?
Motion. Second.
All right, anybody from the public want to speak on this? Going once, twice, may I have a motion to close?
I'll make a motion.
May I have a motion to adopt?
Make a motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Athanasi?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Heist?
Yes.
Hesse?
Yes.
Timbers?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
And Richie?
Yes. I have a motion to advertise notice of adoption and Hamilton Gazette on the 29th.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, wrapping up here, may I have a motion to pay the bills?
Make a motion. Second.
Roll call.
Athanasi?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Dash,
Yes.
Galloway,
Yes.
Heist,
Yeah.
Hesse,
Yeah.
Timbers,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
and Richie.
Yes. Mayor, the floor is yours for any last comments.
I do not have any.
All right, Councilwoman Hyde,
I have nothing, thank you.
Councilman Dash,
I have nothing tonight.
Councilman Wright.
Yeah, just one thing I just want to put out there to remind everybody that T-ball and flag football times are still going on. I'll be out there Friday night from 6 to hopefully 6:30. Flyers are on Facebook and the numbers all out there, so you reach out to me. We're looking to start flag football April 18th and T-ball the 22nd, I think, is that following Saturday. So we will be sending an email out for everybody to sign up. Just a reminder that everybody knows when it starts, depending on it. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Timbers.
Only thing I want to say is I want to commend the police department for their work on fire in 200 block of London Avenue. You guys did a great job. I had a vantage point of it to just, you guys are amazing. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilman.
Good. Good. So, okay. Councilwoman Hesse.
I have nothing.
Councilwoman Antonisi.
I just wanted to extend my condolences to Lisa Zadis' family. And I just wanted to touch on her for real quick. She lived just past the airlock, and you might know her with the house with Big Blue Tree. She did the Blue Tree project where she would light up the big tree in the front yard for our first responders and our fallen police officers. And I want to send my condolences to her children, Roseanne, Mary, Joanne, Terry, and Thomas. I know that she had a great sense of humor and left everybody laughing when something happened. Just may she rest in peace. My condolences to the family.
Councilwoman Clark.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councilwoman Galloway.
Condolences to the Mazetas family. When they did her obituary, didn't say she passed, said she changed her address. So she's in heaven now.
Did it say that on one person?
Yes.
So just to reiterate, Chief, great job. I mean, yeah, I'm in the service, so yeah, everyone did a phenomenal job. And Casey, I can say this to you as Casey, condolences to you also.
Thank you
for your loss. Other than that, I have nothing more. And we'll open to the public for any final comments.
Yeah, I do.
Please state your name and address.
Yes, that's right. Also, 41 Baltimore Avenue. First of all, Councilman Richie stole what I was going to say. Awesome job by the police department. Okay, fantastic job as a professional and doing what they're doing. Second, I'd like to, on numerous occasions, I love my Wawa, coffee in uniform, out of uniform, seeing the police department, very, very courteous and very, very in tune to the community and listening to, people just write and complain to them and handling it very well. Second, fire department, had an awesome job. They've been very busy as well. Okay, we have an awesome fire department, volunteer, encouraging the public to support them any way possible. I think had 4 structure fires in the past month. 4 structure fires in the past month. For Egg Harbor City, that's a lot. Okay, and they're volunteer and everything else, and some are police officers as well. So I'm public safety, that. And second thing is the state of New Jersey, Keith can attest to this. They're doing some of the national framework. So there's a lot of task force everything that has been changed, been assigned, and everything else. That big fire we had, that was in Medford or whatever. They were reaching down this area for fire units. So it's a statewide thing. So if you hear anything from Chief Butch and Chief Kinsley, they went to Trenton or something like that. That's part of the thing. This is something new that's coming up. Everything else, but I just want to thank our public safety.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to step up? Going once, twice, may I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.